Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 12th May 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from Live Mint and it is titled Labor Law Reform Experiments That Could Show Us a Path Ahead. So this is regarding labor reforms and its effect on economy. So last week the government of UP announced the suspension of some of the labor laws to facilitate industry that has practically come to a standstill. This is because of the COVID-19 crisis and the lockdown imposed. Similarly, the state of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat also have opted for this extraordinary measure of easing some labor laws. So this bold move, implemented as it has been in the time of crisis, has been criticized by various people or policy experts who have been a part of this labor law legislations. So this article is about the alternative view. So in the last one decade, we have seen very ordinary economic growth, and even the quality of growth has been questioned by a lot of policy experts. It is a given fact that we have to undertake structural reforms. Now, what do you mean by these structural reforms? So, whenever we are talking about structural reforms, we have to focus on the shape of our economy. If we take an analogy, it doesn't matter how efficient or clean the fuel is if the vehicle that is using this fuel is inefficient. So this inefficiency is not quantified in GDP numbers. So therefore we have to undertake structural reforms. And what exactly are these structural reforms? We are talking about factor market reforms. Now what do you mean by factor market reforms? So there are certain elements of our economy which do not come under the GDP calculation. Say for example, we cannot quantify the labor loss in our GDP calculation. We cannot quantify land loss, legislations on land acquisition, or the efficiency of utilization of capital. All these factors cannot be handled in silos. They are very much essential for a successful functioning of an economy. Now we have had certain reforms in the capital front with the introduction of the insolvency and bankruptcy code. We have also had certain resolution mechanisms for NPAs, but as far as the labor aspect and land acquisition is concerned, this is one of the major headaches for business. So the companies will obviously prefer to have as less legislations as possible when we are dealing with these factor markets. So the compliance burden is one of the biggest costs that most of the companies look for. So this is the reason why they want to move to cheap labor markets like China. So given the crisis, India sees an opportunity. States like Uttar Pradesh, which have huge population and huge labor surplus, are trying to take leverage of this fact. So what the author argues in this piece is that we should not shy away from experimenting with our policies and labor laws, and at the same time it doesn't mean that we are taking away all the labor rights. We have to experiment with our labor market reforms. So we have had various critics who criticized this move from Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat in order to attract more industries. The government's role is to find a balance between both the labor welfare as well as economic growth. So it is very difficult to always support only the labor class or only the industry. It has to strike a balance between both and at the same time ensure this objective of economic growth. Again, I would like to reiterate that economic growth is just the starting point. Now, how we spend this money that we get after economic growth determines the quality of our development. So, the aspect that we have to consider is most of the critics who criticize the labor reforms forget the fact that unless and until we have this economic growth, there is no aspect of development. So, as a starting point, what this author says is we have to experiment. If a particular policy is not working in achieving this end objective of quality of life or economic development, probably we can make certain course corrections. But in the beginning itself, if we criticize this market reforms and stop the companies from coming to India, it will eventually hurt our economic growth and therefore the quality of life. Whether we accept it or not, the economic growth, though unequal across various societies, have improved the standard of living. In India, a majority of people work in the informal sector. Now, what do you mean by informal sector? It just means that they are away from all the social protections provided by the law. The reason is most of the companies take certain shortcuts to find loopholes in the law and ensure that they don't adhere to this social protection. For example, if you take the chapter 5 of Industrial Disputes Act, it says that this act is applicable only for firms that employ only more than 100 people. So most of the companies try to stay small by employing less than 100 people so that they don't have to bear the burden of complying with this law. So there are many legislations like this. So the repeal of this provision may not immediately lead to employment generation, but it will ease down the restrictions placed upon the companies. So it will ensure that the retarded job growth because of the presence of such a provision will be removed. So the second dimension is the author is questioning whether we make our policies based on rigorous empirical evidence or not. Take for example, India enacted a law on land acquisition in 2013. So what is the record? Has it facilitated land sales at better prices like it was originally meant to be? Or did it dampen the transactions? If it was meant to improve the lot of farmers, then why did so many states go for loan waivers in the subsequent elections in 2014 and 15? We have seen many states giving out loan waivers as a policy to ensure that their vote banks are secured. Now this is a temporary solution, and even our former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan raised concerns that this culture of waiving of debts is not good for our economy. So because of problems like this, we see a phenomenon where a weak state compensates for poor execution with strict rules on the book. What this ensures is we are only going to encourage corruption as a norm rather than an exception. So there is a criticism that we are taking away all the rights with respect to labor laws, etc., in the name of ease of doing business. But what we are actually doing is we are ensuring that there are fewer laws, there is less scope for corruption, and as a result, more and more number of people will have jobs. So one of the practical reasons that we have to opt for this kind of a mechanism with respect to labor laws is because today we see migrant labor taking huge pain, and they're traveling from one end of the country to the other just to earn a small amount of 200-300 rupees every single day. Now if the same labor can ensure that they can feed their families at their hometowns at a better price, I mean, say if they're getting even 500 rupees a day in their hometowns, or even if they're getting the same amount or that they are earning elsewhere, they would prefer to stay in their locations. So what this would do is spread out the fruits of development across the country. Now at the same time, the governments are careful enough not to ignore certain aspects that are too harsh on the labor. What this article is trying to eventually say is that we have to ensure that experiments with policy should be encouraged and not criticized based on politics. If we continue to do the same thing, we will not be able to come up with formidable economic reforms until we have a crisis. In 1991, when we had this LPG reforms, this is because of the balance of payments crisis. Now in 2020, almost 30 years later, we have this COVID-19 crisis. It took a crisis for the government to take up some bold reforms, and we have to move away from this trend. That is the gist of this article. The second article for the day is taken from Indian Express and it is titled Target WTO. Now, if you take a look at the present trend in international relations, there is one phrase that can sum it up. We can see that there is a retreat of multilateralism. Now, what do you mean by this? Even before the COVID crisis, most of the countries are trying to resort to protectionism, and the biggest country that is advocating this is America. So we have a slew of right-wing governments who are advocating that we should emphasize on benefiting the local population and local workers rather than encouraging migrants, and we have seen this trend across Europe as well. So there has been a backlash because of the influx of migrants from Syria, and we have also had various movements across France, Belgium, wherein people protested that the Syrian refugees have been trying to take away their jobs. Even Brexit can be seen as one of the fallout of this trend. Continuing on those lines, we have already had United States announcing that it would be withdrawing from UNESCO, and now it is threatening to end the World Trade Organization, which has been very instrumental in carrying the fruits of development to the underdeveloping countries and developing countries with a reasonable trade regime. In this context, we have had various politicians across the world trying to use that advantage of economic hegemony and calling for abolition of World Trade Organization. So this is the kind of demand you would expect to hear from opponents of free trade on the left and right extremes of the Indian political spectrum also. But there are certain voices even in the United States which are raising concerns right now with COVID-19 crisis. So policymakers who advocate that we have to abolish World Trade Organization base their arguments on the premise that we have millions of Americans who are unemployed today because of the war waged against this COVID-19. The lockdown has severely impacted the economic prospects of its population, and at the same time it is empowering the rise of China. So these critics are even questioning the ethos of the international order. One of the major reasons is after the Cold War ended, USA has been the dominant force in international politics. So it was embroiled in one war after the other, and this has taken a severe strain on the economic prospects of Americans. So why should we encourage this global world, the idea of a global village? That is the central critique of this proponents who say that we have to retreat from multilateral organizations like World Trade Organization. If you take a look at the trade policies of US, the reason why we are speaking about this is US elections are coming up, and there has been a lot of debate about the kind of impact the election result would have on world politics. So we have two parties. One is the Republican Party, which is headed by the President of United States, Mr. Donald Trump, and the other side is the Democratic Party. So Democrats have been losing their support base from the working class because of these trends. The idea that foreigners are taking away their jobs has caught up the imagination of the working class, and they have been backing Republicans. Traditionally, Republicans have been conservative when it comes to global trade, and they wanted free trade. Now we see a reversal in this trend where Republicans are actually advocating this retreat of multilateralism owing to the fact that it is going to get them more votes. So this trend is unhealthy. There is a possibility that this might give rise to a new Cold War between US and China. So this new Cold War between US and China will have repercussions for the rest of the world as well. So in that particular context, the need for a multilateral organization that will have a new outlook to deal with this Cold War economic impact is very much necessary, and there is no better forum than WTO. Definitely the contours of how this organization is going to function will change, but for the change to take place we need cooperation between the various entities that comprise this organization and not withdrawal from this organization. That is the gist of this article. So the article writer says that India must take a position to ensure that a rules based world order is taken care of. So that's it for the day. Thank you.